Hi, Dearest Lovely. My name is Kaylin Vu, and it's such a pleasure to meet you. I'm the founder of Dear Lovely Universe. My mission is to help people live their best lives possible by transforming them into the best versions of themselves.
There we go.
Hi, Dearest Lovelies. Today I'm here with Mickey Leon from the Minds of Black Men. He's an amazing guy, super nice, very talented, and with everything going on, I really wanted to get his input and get his message out. So let's welcome Mickey to the Dear Lovely Universe show.
Hi, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on. I'm honored to be a guest on your show.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm so happy that you agreed to film this episode. I think it's very important, very important. So let's start with, what does the Black Lives Matter movement actually mean?
So the Black Lives Matter movement, it's a movement. It means basically trying to fight and advocate for Black lives as well in this country. So it doesn't mean, maybe it's a little bit easier to say what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean that other lives don't matter. It doesn't mean that Black lives matter more than any other life. It doesn't mean anything like that. It means Black lives matter too. It means our lives matter also, because we have had to fight and stand up and yell and scream to let people know that, hey, our lives matter also, because it hasn't been that way, and it hasn't seemed that way for the entire 400 plus years that we've been in this country. So it's not it's not a way to say that we matter more than anybody else. It's actually saying we don't matter at all. Like, we've been treated like we don't matter at all and everybody else does. So, hey, we matter too. Pay attention to us too. Respect our lives too. So that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's so important to make that distinction in the way that Black Lives Matter too, because I think some people are getting it twisted, like thinking that they're trying to say Black lives are more important, but all people want is just to be treated equally and seen as equal.
Right. Exactly. And that is the basis of the entire movement. That's what it means. We just want to be treated equally and seen as equal. We want fair treatment, just like white people and many other races in this country.
Yeah, totally. So, but there's been a lot of commotion happening in the world and America. And I want to know your take on what is the difference between protests and riots?
So, yeah, you're right. There's been a lot of different, a lot of commotion and whatnot going on. Traditionally, they view riots as when people are um, breaking up things, vandalizing things, burning stuff down, breaking into buildings, and being violent, um, just wildly being violent. And protests are generally seen, they try to separate the two and say protests are generally, when people are outside peaceful, marching, holding up signs and trying to get what they want. Personally, I believe if you want to use the term riot, they go hand in hand. There's a quote that says, riots are the language of the unheard. And that's true. So you may see some violence, you may see some riots, you may see some people burning some things down. Those things happen because a group of people have been unheard for so long. So I don't think that there is a way to really separate the two, because a protest is a protest, but a riot is a derivative of a protest. When you are constantly ignoring the people who are protesting and you're telling us that we're protesting wrong. So we peacefully protest, we quietly, we march and we're wrong. We kneel and we're wrong. They tell us that it's not the right time to do that. Everything that we do, we're wrong. So then there's, riots is the way they want to call it. and you're wrong there. So what exactly are we supposed to do? You can't separate the two. A riot and a protest, they go hand in hand, because usually things don't escalate to riot level until the people who have been protesting peacefully are continuing to not be heard, or you're sending out the SWAT team or the National Guard and causing that escalation. So, from my point of view, they're one and the same.
I definitely see your point. Yeah, I mean, when you look in history, the changes have been made because people have taken action.
Exactly. So, in this country, people want to say, oh, like, well, that's not American. Well, I mean, there's nothing more American than a protest and a riot. That's how this country was built. This country was built on wars. This country was built on revolting against people who oppress you. That is the entire reason that people migrated from Europe to this country, to get away from the oppressive regime in Great Britain. So they didn't want to be taxed anymore. They didn't want to be held under the king's thumb. So they moved here. And when Britain followed and tried to set up the same type of structure over here, the country revolted. That's what the American Revolution was all about. That was a bloody, violent war. The Boston Tea Party, they destroyed property to get what they wanted. The Civil War, again, the South revolted against the North. Like, that is what this country has been built on. So it's very ironic and hypocritical when people say that it's un-American to do those things. How is it un-American when this is exactly what America was built on? This is what changed. This is what happens. I mean, when you look at other countries as well, change doesn't usually happen peacefully, because the group that's in power, the group that is in power doesn't want to let go. They don't want to change things. So the group that needs the change, the underserved group, the underrepresented group, the minority group, the only way that they can make things happen to change is to be heard and seen. And usually the only way to be heard and seen is to affect somebody's money and their property. You have to disrupt the things that they like, that they appreciate, that they respect. This country, people respect white people in power, respect money, they respect property. So you start destroying those, they start to pay attention. I don't condone violence, but I don't condemn the people who have the people who are actually a part of the protest, who have resorted to the looting and the rioting and whatnot. I don't condemn those people either. Now, there's another faction to this, where people who are not a part of the movement are coming in and dressing up and trying to cause trouble, and those people are starting riots. Those people are burning things, and those people are trying to make it look like the Black Lives Matter movement and other Black protesters are doing those things. And so that's another level right there, another layer. So all the protests, all the vandalism that you've seen out there is not all the Black Lives Matter movement. It's not. Some of those are people who are coming in with their own agendas.
Totally. I mean, there seems to be many people out here with many different agendas, and I think, unfortunate how a lot of the looting is actually taking away from the main point of the whole movement. And it's really unfortunate to me.
So, but a part of that too is the media and the current presidential administration. They want the focus taken away from the actual movement. So they are trying to create a narrative to where the focus is the rioting and not the purpose behind it. And this time, and I think we've done a good job in these past few days of not letting them shift the narrative, because normally what they do is they shift the narrative. So, we protest and riot because a police officer has killed a Black person unjustly. And immediately the media spins it. They spin it, or Donald Trump spins it, and they talk about the person's negative background, and they talk about all of the things destroying the city, and they hype things up that are not really happening to the levels that they say they are. and so that they changed the narrative. It happened here, and I'm in the DC area. It happened in 2015 here with Freddie Gray in Baltimore, where Freddie Gray was a black guy who was killed by police. You know, then they had him in the back of the police car, and they killed him. And there were protests in Baltimore. The media had the rest of the world thinking that Baltimore was burning down as a city, that, you know, everything was on fire and that it was all, you know, it was all bad. But those of us that were here, we knew that that wasn't the case. There was like two streets. There was maybe two streets where things were happening. On those two streets, the rest of the city was fine. Nothing that, you know, it was a very contained area. And again, the reason those things happened is because the police came in and escalated it to that level.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you have to, you got to do your research, and you have to, you know, people have to do their research, and they have to be aware. You can't believe everything you see on TV.
Definitely. I believe that ignorance is not bliss. I think knowledge is power.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. What you've been saying just reminds me completely about how the power is in the people. I think people forget that collectively and together, they can make a change, because the people in power rely on us to keep their system going.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so, I mean, that's the thing. As I said earlier, people don't want to let go of power. They don't want to change things. You know, a lot of people who have power, they are complacent. You know, it doesn't bother them. The things that are happening doesn't bother them, so they don't care about it. It doesn't impact them. Their families aren't the ones being shot in the street. Their families aren't the ones who are afraid every time a police car gets behind them. You know, you're wondering what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. Am I going to get pulled over? If I get pulled over, am I going to die? Like, white people don't have to worry about that. You know, they don't have to have those conversations with their kids. So, you know, the people do have to come together and make changes, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not, those changes are not something that can be done with just black people. Like, we as black people cannot make those changes happen on our own. We do need white people. We need people of other races to be involved in this whole movement and to get the message across. We absolutely need that. So I don't want anybody to get confused and think that we don't need white people help. We don't want, you know, the help from white folks or anything like that. That's not the case. Now, there may be some ignorant folks out there, and I say ignorant, I don't mean it in a bad way, but I mean truly ignorant people on both sides, but black people who may be ignorant, who don't realize that things like the civil rights movement, things like the NAACP, things like the abolition of slavery, those things were, white people helped us with those things. You know, slavery would have never been abolished without the help of white people. That would not have happened. You know, so we do need to unite as more than just black people, you know, black people, white people, everybody. We do need to unite as a group to get these things changed. These people who are empowered to make the laws, unfortunately, we all voted them there, or we didn't vote them there. You know, if you didn't vote, you still voted. But, you know, we put them there. The local folks that make the laws, if we really want to see real change with the police departments, that's got to start locally. You know, so we do need to unite as people to make these things happen. But we also need to be heard as black people. We need to be heard. We don't need people coming and saying, no, all lives matter. Well, we know all lives matter. We never said all lives didn't matter. All lives absolutely do matter. But right now we're talking about the black ones, because we are not being shown the same level of respect, courtesy, or anything like that as other groups are shown. You know, and I know every group has their problems. I understand that. But every group in this country looks down upon black people. You know, we see it when we go into stores, we go into corner stores that are in our neighborhoods that are not run by us. You know, we walk into corner stores and they have 3-inch thick bulletproof glass up at the counter. The salesperson is watching us from the moment that we walk in the store to the time we leave out. They are rude and belligerent and nasty towards us in our own neighborhoods, you know, when it's our money that is keeping their store open and afloat, you know, and they don't respect us.
It's so unfortunate that people have to go through these kinds of prejudices because of their skin color. I think that everyone is, no matter what race or skin color, should be treated equally because love has no color. And people, no matter what race, there's amazing people. And then there's like some people who just aren't as nice.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that just spans across universally. I think that everyone, no matter what race, should be treated with respect because they're a living human being.
Yeah. And I agree. I mean, it's as an older millennial, right? So I'm a millennial, but you know, I'm on the beginning of the millennials. We went to school with everybody. We went to school with all races, you know, and I can truly say that being in school all the way through high school, it didn't really matter. You know, I mean, yeah, we knew, you know, white kids, black kids, or whatever, but none of that mattered. We all played football together. We played basketball together. We ate lunch together. We were in class together. You know, my best friend from first grade all the way until he died in our senior year, he was white, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and his family was white, and they treated me like I was their child, you know, and my family treated him like he was their child. And none of that stuff mattered. You know,
Exactly.
it's when you become an adult, it's like you come into this adulthood, and that's when things get, I don't want to say they get stupid, but it's when you really start to realize like how the world really is, you know, you
Mm-hmm.
realize that, and that's when things start to get crazy. I mean, I see some of my friends that I went to school with posting some things that back in high school I would have never thought that kind of stuff would have come out of their mouth. And
Yeah.
at the same time, I see some friends that I went to school with who are just completely quiet and silent on the issue, which is also a problem. Like, you know, if you don't have anything to say about it, like you're complicit, and you're letting your white counterparts treat us this way, but you don't say anything. I mean, that's just as bad. You know, when you see something, you see injustice, you got to say something. I mean, I'm not about to, in my presence, I'm not about to let somebody disrespect in my presence, you know, Hispanic people, Asian folk. Like you're not about to just be disrespectful towards another race, period, in my presence, because that's not how I am, you know.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I'm gonna call you on it.
Mm-hmm. I think, like you were saying, being being quiet about issues that really matter is a disfavor for all parties involved because, like we were saying, change is created by coming together. And even if you feel a way about something, say it. I think that when something is just so wrong, it is our responsibility to say something about it.
Yeah, I agree. That's how change happens. That's how
Mm-hmm.
change happens. It's when we ignore things over and over again, you know, that the issues grow until
Yeah.
they get to a point where it bubbles over and it boils over, and then there's an eruption, and that eruption is the protests and the riot. So it
Mm-hmm.
all comes back around to that. I mean, we are literally fighting 400 years of oppression, of segregation, of disrespect, of being viewed and treated as less than humans. it's ingrained in America. It goes in everything that we do, everything that we see, laws, the prison system, all of those things. There's laws literally made to keep Black people from being successful. And like I was in a discussion this morning with a Native American person who were, she was arguing that Native Americans have the worst plight in the country, have been treated the worst in the country overall. I'm not here to argue that. I don't think we need to argue whose plight is worse. Yes, Native Americans, I mean, what was done to Native Americans, like by Europeans, is unimaginable. Like, how do you come over and take somebody else's land and then put them on a reservation and say, this is the amount of land that you can have? I'm claiming this land. That's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
In its own right. It's horrible. But what was done to us is horrible. Also, we didn't even get a reservation. I mean, the reservation thing is terrible, that you take somebody's land and put them on a reservation, but they make laws for Native Americans. They give them provisions and whatnot, which again, that is not fair because this is their land. But they came and kidnapped us from a whole nother continent and brought us over here involuntarily, enslaved us, killed us, raped us, beat us. And then when it was over, sent us on and continued to terrorize us. We didn't get a reservation. We didn't get anything. We didn't get any land. That is the reason why there is such a gap in the wealth gap between Black families and white families. Like the average, I saw this morning on CNN, the average white family median income or earning potential over a certain number of years was like $117,000. The average Black family's earnings over a certain number of years was like $17,000. That's $100,000 gap. How do you recover from that? So when you have issues like this, money issues, status issues, it leads to all of the things that people want to have an issue with, when it comes to Black people. They want to talk about Black on Black crime, which is crazy in itself for that to even be a discussion. But they want to talk about that. They want to talk about, our cities and stuff like that. Well, what are we supposed to do? We don't have access to capital. We don't have resources the same way that white people do. A white person can walk into a bank. I could go into a bank with my credit being what it is, my education, my job, the amount of money that I make. A white person next to me could walk into the bank with 200 points less on their credit, not make as much money as me, not have the credentials that I have. And 9 times out of 10, standing in front of the loan officer, they're going to be more ready, even subconsciously, to give the loan to the white person than me. The white person doesn't have to prove themselves as much as we do just to even be seen. And that's the kind of stuff that we want to stop.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of stuff. If you qualify, you qualify. It shouldn't matter. When I bought my house, I got put through hell to get my loan to buy my house. And it boiled down to, they didn't understand how this Black guy, as young as I was when I bought my house, made all the money that I made and could afford this house. Like, the questions that even my loan officer said she'd never seen anything like that before, what the underwriters put me through. And she's worked with Black people, white people. She said she's never seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it boiled down to, was how is this 28-year-old at the time, how is this 28-year-old Black guy making all of this money to afford this $500,000 house? Well, I got 2 degrees and I own my own business. And, I did all the things that they tell you you're supposed to do as an American to be able to get to that position, to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry, I know I'm talking a lot, but it's.
I totally hear your point. And it's just, it makes me so uncomfortable and upset that just because of your skin color, people will not give you the same resources, such as owning your own house and getting a loan on, and you have to prove yourself so much more, and they just can't understand how you could be so successful at a young age. It just goes to show the discrimination. I mean, if people are going to, I just I have I do tutoring for younger children, and I tutored one-on-one with a 13-year-old Black girl. And she was a little bit slow, but only because no one really cared to help her. And it was just so sad. And one day she said, "You help me more than my own teacher does." And I just think that people need to realize you can help the younger generations by just teaching them and being there for them.
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't take, more than a loving, caring heart to really help raise the younger children into people who will create positive changes in the world.
Right. I mean, it's a lot of preconceived notions, about people and whatnot. And if you have that loving and caring heart and you can see past all of those things, then you'll be able to help a lot of people. You'll be able to help way more people because that's what's needed. We it's like there's like I said, there's preconceived notions. And sometimes people don't even realize they're doing it, but it's just they're so ingrained. Like, you said you tutor. My sons, when they were in kindergarten, like their teacher, she was terrible. She was terrible. And she was biased against little brown children, whether Black, Hispanic. We live in a high Hispanic area over here. And so there were Black children and there were Hispanic children, like mostly Mexican or El Salvadorian. But her tolerance, we noticed after going to class and dealing with her expectations were a lot lower for the Black and brown kids than they were for the white kids. And she treated them that way. She treated my boys as if they were not able to handle some of the work that she was giving them, the things that she was giving them, but she never gave them a chance. Mm-hmm. And she ruined their kindergarten experience. Luckily they came up against some good teachers, in the first and second grade that helped to restore their faith in school and their love in school. Mm-hmm. But because their kindergarten teacher did what she did and she had her preconceived notions and she taught them or tried to teach them based on that, that had an impact. And that happens a lot with our kids. It doesn't mean white people can't teach our kids, but you have to understand with any children that you teach, you have to understand the struggles that they have, where they come from. And you can't just think that these little traditionally Black children don't perform as well on this and on that. You can't come at them that way. You should respect us the same way you respect the little white kid or anything else. Mm-hmm. Put the work in front of the child, teach the child, regardless of what race they are. If the child is able to handle the work, the child can handle the work. If they can't, they can't. But if the child is having other issues outside of classroom, then as a teacher, you have to be mindful of that. You have to be mindful to understand that this little Black child might come from a family or an area that's not in the best place or whatever. They may have other things going on. So you can't just write them off. You have to find out what is impacting their ability to learn. And that was something that she didn't try to do. I mean, my boys didn't have anything impacting their ability to learn, but other kids in the class, she treated all the brown children the same way.
Yeah. And that's just, so infuriating. But hopefully, with this movement and with the people talking, there will be more awareness and people will treat people as people and the same.
Yeah, that's the hope. I mean, on the surface right now, it looks like more people are starting to wake up. It looks like more people are starting to pay attention and see some of the injustices, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to get too comfortable too early though, because we've seen this movie before, where it looks like, okay, yeah, there's action going on, but then as time moves on, things die down and people forget. We have to keep the momentum going.
Exactly.
We have to keep the momentum going. There are a lot of people out there now who are saying, okay, you know what, we need to listen. These things are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to talk about it. It's good to say that, but what are your actions going to be? So what's the next step? From what's the next action that not just Black people, but other people in positions of power that have acknowledged that things are wrong, what are you going to do within your organization to fix it?
Mm-hmm.
The NFL just released a statement yesterday saying that they were wrong about protests and, that they are committing to making changes. So we'll have to see in this upcoming season and over the next year, what kind of changes do they really plan on making?
Yeah, totally. When you were talking about organizations and the people in power and making changes, it made me wonder, what do you think are changes that people like you and I, like proactive things that we can do to promote change?
What are some of the things? Well, stuff like this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
just using our platforms, getting our voices out there, not being silent, not being quiet, talking to your peer group, continuing to talk, your peer group, your age group, everybody, just keeping the conversation going and then holding people accountable, when they say they're going to do something.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, that's the way to do it. And if each individual person says, they make an effort to do the right thing, then eventually it'll change.
Mm-hmm.
But it has to stay at the forefront. It can't be, in 2 weeks the topic is shifted to something else. It can't be that.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be something that is ongoing while we do other things.
Yeah, I think it's so important. I think for everyone to just for at least 1 second to put themselves in the shoes of the people who have been treated so unfairly. Because, I mean, people can get upset that there's riots and stuff like that, but they have to realize why it's happening. And I think putting yourself in somebody else's shoes will give you a greater perspective and I think open up your heart.
Yeah, it will. I mean, because just because you don't experience it don't mean you can't empathize with somebody. Like you'll never experience walking into a store and somebody clutching their purse and following you around the store like you're going to steal something. What that feels like. While somebody may follow you around the store, just in general thinking you're going to shoplift or whatever. But that change in somebody's body language when you walk in the door, just because they think they got some preconceived notion about you, I mean, I can't even describe what it feels like,
Yeah.
and when they assume that you can't pay for something, that you can't do something, and I'm not going to take too much time. And I'll give one more example. When I moved into my house, my air conditioning unit went out and I had to buy a new AC, and ACs are expensive. So we had a company come in and give us a quote. And the guy that came in, he kept giving us a quote for like the cheapest air conditioned unit that they had. And so I asked him about financing. And he says, yeah, we have financing. But his attitude was very much like, oh, they're not going to be able to pay for this. You know, we're not, whatever. Like, he didn't want to be like, it wasn't going to be worth his time. So, you know, we get to the point where we have to run the credit. So to run your credit, you know, you have to give them your social, you give them your W-2 information, you know, your salary information and all that good stuff, so they can apply for your credit. And so when I gave him that and he saw how much money we actually made and how we qualified, then his whole attitude changed. You know, it was like, oh, wow, like maybe, you know, it was like all of a sudden like, wow, maybe I can get this sale, or wow, maybe this isn't a waste of time. Well, it's a waste of time for you now, because now you've lost the sale no matter what, because you should have treated me with that level of respect when you first got here, because you didn't know me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he didn't know me. He didn't know what I could do. He didn't know what I could buy. He didn't know anything. I'm a customer, just like anybody else you go see. So treat me with that same level of respect from the beginning. So that's all we're asking.
Definitely. I want to ask about police accountability. How do you think that police should be held accountable for their actions?
I think police should be held accountable the same way normal citizens are supposed to be held accountable. So if they murder someone, I understand you have to do an investigation, but being put on administrative leave with pay, that's unacceptable. You know, you're being investigated for murder. You should not get paid. You shouldn't be on leave with pay. You know, that's not fair. Administrative leave, we don't know, that's a paid vacation, you know, while you're investigating. That's not fair. And then they should be, you know, they should not be protected by their badges. You know, they shouldn't, their word should not be taken more because they're a police officer. And we've seen that where, you know, they'll say, oh, well, they're a police officer, as if that means they're more honorable than other people. You're not more honorable than me just because you're a cop. That's the line of work you chose to go into. You choosing to go into that line of work doesn't make you more honorable than the next man who chose to be a carpenter or a brick mason or something like that. That they don't correlate. So they should be held accountable the same way normal people are held accountable. And I also feel like there needs to be more training. And I think the screening process to be a police officer should be more stringent. Like, are they screening these people? Are they making sure that these people have not displayed biased behavior in the past? Like, are you scouring through their social media posts, all of those things, to see what type of groups they align with? Why would you allow somebody to become a police officer who has white supremacist views? You know, if this person's posts are always about white supremacy or things, you know, just things of that nature, why would you allow them to become a police officer? Why wouldn't you scrutinize them the way that you scrutinize people who have a DOD security clearance? Those people are getting a security clearance to go sit behind a desk. But you're not scrutinizing these police officers who are in the street, supposed to be protecting these communities. People who are walking around with guns. These officers are walking around with guns and pretty much the right to use them if they feel threatened.
Yeah.
Where's the scrutiny there?
Yeah. I definitely agree that there should be a higher bar of figuring out what kind of person that these people are before putting them out on the streets with a gun and the right to, well, maybe not right, but the ability to really hurt people if they feel it's necessary. And
Right.
yeah,
And the fear.
and the fear.
I mean, they have fear. Like when you look at some of these killings, like Philando Castile, that police officer was scared. You know, he was, if you watch the video of Philando Castile being murdered in, I believe it was 2015, in Minnesota by the police officer, that police officer was scared. The dash cam showed it. Philando Castile did what he was supposed to do. He told the officer, that he had a gun and that he was licensed and registered. The gun was registered and the guy was licensed to carry. And he told the officer that he had a gun in the glove box. And the officer told him to get his license. So he reached for the license and the officer shot him. Why did you shoot him? He shot him because he was scared.
Mm-hmm.
He should have never been a police officer. He wasn't made for it. He was you're too afraid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they need almost like military training with, you know, I mean, I work for the military. And I mean, for the most part, these guys are out there, they're trained to keep their cool in combat situations. They're trained to think first in combat situations. Why aren't the police trained that way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
it saddens me so much when we hear like these names and then they just turn into hashtags and then there's another one and then people talk about it for a few months or however long and then there's another one, and this is why people are getting so upset and so over it.
mm-hmm.
And like you were saying, people are hiding behind their badges and they're not being held accountable. So we definitely need to raise the bar with who's policing these communities.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what does police brutality just kind of look like? And what does it really mean for
an abuse of power?
Mm-hmm.
You know, abusing your power as a police officer, because the police are given they're given leeway to do their job, to use force, to use a certain level of force to do their job if it's necessary. The brutality part comes in when they use excessive force in situations that don't require it. And then they hide behind their badge, like they lie about the need to use excessive force.
Yeah.
You know, putting your foot on somebody's neck. That's excessive. For what? Wrestling a man to the ground because he's selling some loose cigarettes and the man is telling you he can't breathe. That's excessive force. Shooting a man in a car with his girlfriend and his daughter after he tells you that he has a gun, a licensed gun, and he's doing what you asked him to do, which is reach for his license. That's excessive. That's brutality.
Mm-hmm.
Shooting a man in the back, Walter Scott in South Carolina, where he was running away from the police and the officer shot him in the back. That's brutality.
Yeah.
You
and
know?
We're seeing brutality even in these protests, which
yes,
is just very outrageous.
You see in Atlanta last weekend, these two college kids were in the car. They were in the car in their seatbelt, and the police tased them. They broke their window and tased them and dragged them out of the car. Like, why? They were seatbelt. They were strapped into their car. You know, yesterday we saw video, police in Atlanta again choke slammed a woman and broke her collarbone. The woman, you know, she didn't do anything. We saw yesterday too on the news where the police pushed a 75-year-old man and he fell and hit his head. That man wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
And then there was another one where the police, when they were clearing out the way for Donald Trump, the police took their riot shield and smashed the camera guy in the stomach. The camera guy wasn't doing anything. The camera guy was holding his huge camera with both hands, just standing there. And the police took his shield, hit him in the stomach, and pushed him down. And then pushed the female reporter behind him, pushed her down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They didn't do anything. These people are out here abusing women. They're abusing children. Like, you're a police officer. There's no excuse for you to choke slam a woman. A male police officer choke slam a male woman. A woman. This dude is you're in body armor. She can't hurt you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The excessive force, it's just uncalled for. It's not needed. And it needs to stop. It really needs to stop.
And again, we don't want, it's not that we want there to be no police. We want police. We want police. We want good police, though. That's the thing. We want good police. Black people do not trust the police. To us, police are, they're abusers, they are liars, and they are not a group of individuals to be trusted. They are organized mob, they are organized crime, organized chaos. That is how the majority of Black people view police. And it is not because we're criminals, it's because they treat us that way.
Yeah.
So we want good police.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want police that'll be held accountable. We want police that'll understand the neighborhoods that they're policing. Mm-hmm. Because you can't protect the neighborhood if you don't understand the neighborhood, if you don't like the people in the neighborhood. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's what we want. And accountability. I don't care if it's a Black officer or a white officer. If it's a Black officer that does something that needs to be held accountable, hold him accountable. You know, if that was a Black officer that had his knee on George Floyd's neck, we'd be out here protesting because he needs to go to jail because he did it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm understating that, you know, people want police. They don't want to just completely end the police. They just want the police to like the people, understand the neighborhood, like the people, and use an appropriate amount of force and treat them equally. Mm-hmm. And not have this preconceived idea that they are some kind of criminal, and just treat them like a human being.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have any final messages that you would like to share?
Yeah, just keep the conversation moving forward. You know, if there are white people, Hispanic people, any other race listening to this podcast right now, I would just say don't shy away from the conversation, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. Being uncomfortable is good. If the conversation is uncomfortable for you to have, you should be having the conversation. You know, listen to your Black friends, your Black colleagues, your Black coworkers. Listen to them. You know, don't discount what they say. Don't discount our trauma. Don't discount what we say just because it doesn't happen to you. You know, this stuff has happened to us. We're not making it up. We're not getting it from TV. This stuff has happened to us. It happens to us on a daily basis. You know, so listen, that is what you can do. Mm-hmm. Listen, be accountable, ask yourself, have I done anything to contribute to this? If I have, what have I done? And how can I not do it? You know, mm-hmm. You can't change the past. You can't change what you did in the past. If you're a white person and you use the N-word in the past, but that's not how you feel, that's not how you feel now. I'm not going to hold you. Some people will. I'm not going to hold you accountable for that, doing that 20 years ago, if that's not what you show me now. Mm-hmm. You know, don't beat yourself up over stuff you did in the past. Just what can you do from the day forward? Because nothing that you did in the past is going to help us today.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's my message.
Thank you so much, Mickey, for, you know, opening up this conversation. I'm so grateful that we got a chance to talk about this today, and I really hope that, you know, we see some progressive, positive changes, and that this will be a thing of the past.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor, and I really appreciate it.